right. Let's give it just another few seconds here. Get everybody following in, and we will get started. Good. All right. Well, good afternoon, y'all, and welcome to Linworks 101. I'm your host, Vince, and today we'll be taking a deep dive on the inventory management system within the Linworks platform. Got a couple of things before we get started. I do want to remind y'all that today's Linworks 101 session will primarily focus on the inventory management piece. I will give a very brief overview of the entire Linworks platform before we get into extensive detail on the inventory management portion. So in case you haven't, you may want to also check out our last session, an introduction to the platform presented by my team's fearless leader, Matt Heitzer. There, you'll see a much more comprehensive overview of the overall Linworks platform. And you should find that link in the window here labeled resource list, which really brings me on to the On24 webinar interface. You should see a bunch of windows all around me. The slides pane, which is where we'll spend a few minutes going through a couple of slides. As I promised, I won't spend too much time here, so don't worry about that. Then you've got the media player, where you can see my face. You're welcome. When I screen share the demo, you'll want to make sure you can see this screen, just so be aware. We may jump around between these panels here and there, so if you're maximizing or minimizing those, just be aware. We'll switch here back and forth every once in a while. That resource list page that I mentioned earlier, we've prepared additional resources there, some documents, videos, and other things that you may be interested in. So feel free to take a look at that and maybe browse that at will. There is a Q&A box also, so feel free to drop in questions that you have there, and we'll absolutely try to get all those covered by the end of the presentation. But don't worry, if we don't get to your question, we will actually reach out to you after the presentation to make sure that all of your questions are answered. All right. So here's the agenda for today. Just a quick preview of what we're going to get into. I'll introduce myself a little bit more. We'll talk a little bit about Linworks as a whole. We'll get into that inventory piece, and then a quick summary on learning how to grow, automate, and be in control of your e-commerce operations, and then we'll jump into that Q&A. So pretty simple agenda today. Let's get on to it. Hey, look, there's me. Guys, I'm Vince Stavrowsky. I'm a sales engineer here at Linworks. I live in the beautiful city of Austin, Texas, which also happens to be the Linworks North American HQ. I've got a little over 6 years as a sales engineer in software, but I'm relatively new here at Linworks, as January will actually close out my 3rd month. I've got to say, though, I've really come to love this company, and I'm really excited to show you what we've been cooking. So enough about me. Let's get to it. All righty. So a quick overview on Linworks. Linworks enables businesses like yours to manage their multi-channel inventory, orders, and fulfillment from a centralized platform, and provides deep insights across all of your sales channels and operations. By equipping brands and retailers to conduct commerce wherever their customers are, Linworks powers businesses to drive growth and boost brand success. As both Amazon and eBay's largest European commerce partner, Linworks processes over 8 billion GMV each year globally and serves some of the world's biggest brands. Inventory management, that's why we're all here, right? So we do understand that some of our customers' challenges around inventory management are overselling and the resulting consequences of that, challenges around low stock items, and unpredictable conditions in the marketplace. In response, Linworks has developed an inventory management platform that streamlines your workflows and provides real-time visibility into your inventory's performance. We also forecast demand at the SKU level and keep you in the inventory sweet spot by optimizing your stock levels. All right, so hopefully you guys are ready to see this in action. Again, I am going to do a quick overview of some of the other sections in Linworks, but I'm going to go pretty quickly through that so we can spend most of our time today on inventory management. Again, if you want to see more about Linworks as a whole suite, do check out that first Linworks 101 seminar or webinar provided by my manager. All right, so let's get to it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right, and if everything's working correctly, you should be looking at a channel integrations page in the Linworks system. So I'll cover this really quickly. The channel integrations page, this is the tab that allows you to connect to the different selling channels or marketplaces that you want to be connected to with your e-commerce operations. Now, in this demonstration site that I've got here, we've got, of course, just a couple of Amazon accounts hooked up. We've got an eBay store hooked up, and we've got a couple of Shopify stores hooked up as well. But I do want to quickly preview the fact that we do have over 70 direct integrations with many of the selling channels, the partners, the marketplaces that you see here. Oftentimes, these are push button integrations where really you're just bringing your account information. You click the integrate button, we set up that account for you, make sure it's working, test it, and you're off and running. So relatively simple process to get integrated to all the different sales channels or marketplaces that you may be interested in meeting your customers on. We'll quickly jump over to the open order screen. This is a little out of order in how I typically do demonstrations within Linworks. Typically, I'll kind of go in a specific order, but I did want to jump to the open order screen very quickly to give you guys just a quick overview of this. And that is, no matter where your orders are originating, whether that's Amazon, Shopify, or any of the other possible marketplaces or sales channels out there, all of those orders are going to funnel to this one particular screen where you'll be able to manage and process all of those orders together. And really the value there is that you're not having to go out and interact with those individual sales channels to process your orders. Everything all funnels into Linworks, and you're able to do everything from that unified single platform. And that's really the main objective there. Of course, you can handle the individual orders as they come in and process those one by one. But we would absolutely suggest, and best practice suggests, that you really set up automations within Linworks to help manage batches of orders or large groups of orders. And the way that we do that is we provide these automation engines, or say rules engines, that allow you to automate those repeatable processes, those things that your team may be doing on a regular basis. That's really just kind of a predefined workflow. And it's just busy work, honestly. And we have the ability to allow the system to take over that and remove that from the manual workflow and really give your team a lot of time back into their day, as well as reducing the potential for human error in processing these orders. So again, if you want to see a little bit more detail on that aspect of it, which is truly a powerful aspect of Linworks, do check out that previous webinar that we've had. All right. And then finally, before we get into inventory, I did want to just quickly mention the integrations that we have with shipping providers, shipping carriers globally as well. Very quickly, again, I want to show you kind of a preview of all the different carriers that we do have supported integrations with. Of course, in our demonstration site here, you'll see that we've got FedEx, Stamps.com, UPS, but then let's take a quick look at the other potential integrations that you would have access to should you decide to roll out a Linworks platform here. Just very quickly scrolling through. For those of you in Europe, you may recognize a lot of these names. For those of us in North America, some of these names are familiar. So again, just a quick preview of those shipping integrations that we have provided access to. All right, very cool. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of this particular webinar. This is our inventory panel, or inventory page, if you will. So once your channels are connected, your marketplaces are connected, the next step, of course, is getting your inventory in order. This tab really becomes your centralized inventory management control system for your e-commerce operations. It allows you to get away from the spreadsheets and managing inventory on individual channels and marketplaces, and again, kind of consolidating your operations to a single platform here within Linworks. There are a few different ways to look at your inventory depending on what you're working on. And we allow that through the views tabs. You'll notice up here at the top, I've got a default view, a listings view, as well as a forecasting view. And you can see how the information being displayed changes depending on which view I'm looking at. These are completely customizable, so maybe based on your role within the company or the project that you're currently working on within your operations, you may want to view your inventory in different ways or in different fashions. And these views allow you to set up the view exactly how you want to see it, only displaying just the information that you need to see for the current task that you're working on. We also support multiple locations. What is a location, you might ask? Well, it's a warehouse or a fulfillment center oftentimes. And what's great about this is you have the ability to view your entire inventory in the combined stock section. And I don't know if this drop-down menu is displaying on your screen as it is on mine, but in case it's not, very quickly I'll say we've got a list here of about 5 or 6 different warehouses or fulfillment centers that we're looking at. We also have one called combined stock, and that shows you all of your inventory across all of your different fulfillment centers or warehouses. But more importantly, if you did want to filter down to a single warehouse, a single 3PL, or maybe your FBA stock, you could certainly look at that independently to know exactly how much stock you have in those individual locations. And that allows you to balance your inventory network as efficiently as you want to, and make sure that those out of or low stock items are paid attention to, and you're getting those resolved as they come up. Next, let's talk a little bit about the actual inventory items. So the inventory items are displayed as these rows within the inventory tab here. That includes the SKUs that have all the information about the products contained within them. You can see the titles, the stock levels, and the availability for each item as well. The availability, that's this column right here, that's an important column because that literally is the difference between your stock level and what you have in open orders. And this is the stock level that is pushed in real time to your sales channels automatically. And that shows the actual availability for each of those products on those sales channels. Now, there is in our inventory management system a product information management functionality tucked into that overall inventory management system, and that is contained within each of these individual SKUs. So I will quickly click on one of these items, and that will display the product details dialog here, and that's what we've got on the screen now. And this is really critical because this is where all of the information about a particular SKU or particular item is going to be contained and managed, and this is where it will be pushed out to those individual sales channels from this dialog right here. So let's start just by kind of going through these tabs one by one. The general tab here gives the basic information that you might expect to be surfaced for an individual SKU item, but I do want to highlight one in particular, and that's this batch type down here. We do have the ability to batch your SKUs or your items by a sell-by date or by a priority sequence. So if you are working with products that do have an expiration date or a lot number, and there is a specific reason why you might want to let's say implement a FIFO methodology within your warehouse, we do support that functionality, and it's really important to recognize that. So absolutely capable there. All right, and let's keep it rolling. So images are supported as well within our system here. So if you are working on multiple sales channels that really are going to require maybe different images, maybe 3 here, 4 there, 1 over here, we give you the option or the availability to upload as many images as you want into the system, and then choose which images are going to be uploaded based on that sales channel that you happen to be looking at or happen to be posting your products to. And you can be very selective on which images you want to display and which you want to suppress. The next tab we'll take a quick look at is the Postage Definitions tab. This is a really critical piece, and this took me a few minutes to get really familiar with why this is such a critical component. But the physical dimensions of a product are taken into account through many of the automations that are supported within Linworks. And so having accurate descriptions of the weight, the dimensions, the physical dimensions, the packaging group, the postal service that you might use for this particular SKU is really important in helping those automated processes in Linworks really understand the actual product that those automations are dealing with and how best to make decisions around those particular products. Absolutely critical there. Listing descriptions. Listing descriptions allow for channel-specific listings for the same SKU to individual channels, allowing you to market to specific demographics or different marketplaces appropriately. And by that, I mean, you can have a unique pricing based on the channel that you are listing your products on or listing your products to. You can also change the title, of course, to match the channel that you are listing your products to as well. So pricing, channels, and then also the descriptions or templates for those descriptions are unique by channel as well. And you have the ability to essentially get templates going for each channel for all your different products. And that really leads to a much faster process of getting your items listed. It simplifies that workflow. It puts in a lot of efficiencies into those workflows, especially those repeated processes, and allows you to save a ton of time and energy and stress in getting these products uploaded to those different sales channels. All right. Actually, it wasn't quite ready to get out of there. Let's go back into that. Let's talk next about channel SKUs. Channel SKUs are relatively important. They control how your items are listed on each specific channel, and they allow you to set up safety thresholds on stock to avoid overselling by only displaying a specific percentage of the actual stock that's available. And this prevents that overselling by giving you something of a reserve stock to hold there to prevent any issues that you might encounter by getting to those low or those critical stock levels. Once this minimum threshold is reached, the listing can be automatically removed until it's replenished if you want to set it up that way. You can also avoid displaying a surplus by limiting the stock that's displayed. Even if you have a large inventory allocated to a specific channel, but you don't necessarily want to display that you have that much inventory sitting out there, you can tell the system, hey, even though I've got 1,000 units out there, only show 100 units. Maybe introducing a little bit of scarcity, or certainly not displaying that you've got a surplus of stock within that particular sales channel. I am going to jump quickly to stock forecasting. I want to talk about this because it is an important component of this piece. And forecasting and predicting anticipated demand is a hugely critical component of e-commerce as a whole, but particularly in inventory management. So our forecasting component uses historical sales data and consumption rates in parallel with supplier lead times, so you know exactly when and how much to reorder. So the default consumption period is 90 days, but you absolutely, as you can see here, have the opportunity to change that or edit that to fit your specific operations. And then the system is intelligent enough to understand a suggested reorder amount is going to cover that next consumption period. A couple of other cool points that I want to point out with our forecasting component is that if you do have, say, a new SKU or a new item that you've introduced to your inventory, and you don't have a sales history for it, so you're not exactly sure what that consumption rate is going to be, you can actually tag or tie that to an alternative stock item that may have a similar performance or similar forecasting results. So you can actually generate a sales history or simulate a sales history for that particular item to help you anticipate the demand and actually get that product in your inventory and get that forecasting operational, even for those brand new items. All right, so back up to the supplier side. With regards to suppliers, we have the ability to list all the different suppliers you may be receiving your products from. You can input independent lead times, purchase prices, different currencies that those might be ordered by, minimum orders, and pack sizes for each individual supplier for each of your individual SKUs. And again, that's really, really critical for a lot of the forecasting capability, as it does run that lead time in parallel with the consumption rate of those SKUs that you have. And that's going to generate when that next order should occur for each individual SKU item. So not only is it giving you the opportunity to restock and create purchase orders on these suppliers, but you're getting a little bit of intelligence on when those should be ordered and how much should be ordered as well. And that comes through this suppliers section right here. Let's jump into the extended properties tab. This is a really important tab, again, that helps with those automations. You all are probably noticing a recurring theme here is Linworks asks for a lot of information about your products, but it's with a specific purpose, and that is to really extend the efficiency and the automation capabilities that Linworks can provide you and your team to make sure that we're helping you become as efficient as possible, within this market as a whole. So the extended properties, obviously there's a lot in here. There's a ton of information in here. And really what we've done is we've scoured the different sales channels that are out there and the types of information that they may be requesting on given SKUs. And we've put that information into the system and allow you to map information about your particular items to those properties. And then one of the great things about Linworks is when you go to create a post or create a new listing, it really just becomes an exercise of mapping the requested data from that channel to the extended properties here that are held in Linworks. And so you're not having to go out there and recreate those every single time you go out and create a new listing. All right, the next tab in these product details I want to talk about is the inventory tab. So this allows you to input a specific bin rack location. So we're getting kind of into the warehouse management side of Linworks. Don't worry, there will be a full webinar on WMS in the future here. So if you're really curious about that functionality, that's coming. But we're just going to stick with basic inventory management today. But aside from that, the bin rack location that's designated here, that's really critical for that pick pack process that you may be implementing within your own warehouses to let your team know exactly where an item is in that warehouse as they're generating that pick pack list. So it makes it easy for them to go out there and collect those items quickly and efficiently. I'm going to scooch over here to the composition tab. I'm going to do this just as a good example. Let's look up some composition items here in our inventory, and we'll jump into that composition tab again. And you'll see composition or a kit or a bundle is something that many of our customers are using on a regular basis. And what's great about this particular tab is we allow for you to list and sell products as or SKUs, I should say, as a kit or a bundle, but it's actually going to pay attention to the individual items that are contained within that SKU or that kit or that bundle, and it's going to manage the inventory within that kit or that bundle or that composition correctly and accurately, because it's then looking at the child SKUs or the child units that are contained within that composition, and it is deducting that inventory as those SKUs are sold across your channels. It's deducting that inventory correctly, which is really outstanding and extremely helpful with regards to being able to market several items together, maybe at a discounted price. You can put up a discounted price for a bundled SKU, and it's going to, again, manage that inventory correctly across the board there. All right, so let's get back into our normal items there rather than the composition SKUs. We'll get back in composition, item stats. Let's go product identifiers. This is just quickly, if you've got specific product identifiers based on the channels that you're selling your individual products in, you can have those listed even before you go out to those particular sales channels. You can have that information contained for each individual SKU within your system as well. So next up, let's jump into stock forecasting. Oh, sorry, we've already been there. Let's get into, let me exit this. I think we're all done with the products listing portion here. All right, let me exit there. And let's talk about actually listing your products out to the individual channels. All right. So I know that listing products to individual channels is another, let's call it a pain point for our customers. There are many solutions out there available to do this, but Linworks, again, kind of brings that functionality into the entire suite, providing functionality on a wide range of different topics or different areas of e-commerce in general, and allowing you to access that from a single platform. Listing your products to individual channels is very easy within Linworks, and we've developed a lot of, let's call them efficient workflows to get that done very quickly and very easily. So as an exercise, let's just imagine that we've got a series of new products that need to be listed to, in this case, we'll say going out to the Amazon US section here. And what we'll do is we'll highlight those items that are new, that are going to go out, and we will create a listing on Amazon. Let me highlight the clothing and t-shirt category here that those will be posted to. And you can see that the system has now, basically it's brought up the template that we've set up for Amazon US that contains the SKU, the product ID, the UPC, title, configurator, price. And then we can actually select the specific browse nodes within Amazon that we want to send these listings to. In this case, we've selected 2 out of all the different ones that are available. And quickly just kind of showing you the enormous number of different categories that we could potentially post these individual SKUs to. The description column here allows us to input the description for individual SKUs, get those items listed out there. But I do want to show you something really cool that I've come really to appreciate within the Linworks capability, and that is the description tags that are available in this dropdown. Now, again, if you can't see this dropdown that I'm accessing right now on the screen, that's okay. Just be aware it has items in it such as product description, short description, listing titles, listing price, weight, width, height, dimensions, bullet points, colors, different things like that are contained within that insert description tag drop down right here. And the purpose is, if we have a series of items that are relatively similar, there's just a few minor differences, we might actually want to use a very similar description for each of those items, of course making edits to those details, if you will, that are going to be different from one item to the next. As an example, maybe the title is a little bit different from one item to the next. In that case, I'm just going to highlight that title from this description, and I'm going to insert the listing title tag rather than the actual title that I've typed in there. And this is a tag now that's actually going to pull that information, the product listing title, from this particular SKU and drop that in there for me. I'm going to do the same thing for the color here. We'll grab that and we'll actually insert the color tag. And now what I've done is I've essentially input variables in this description, and that allows me to use the same description, literally copying and pasting this description from one item to the next, and allowing those tags to display the correct information or the correct variable within that particular description. As you can imagine, if you've got a lot of similar products, this methodology allows you to create those descriptions very rapidly. So you're rapidly generating those descriptions. They are accurate. You don't have to double check your work because the system's pulling the actual tag from those product descriptions and dropping those into the description paragraph here. Again, really designed to save you guys a ton of time with regards to those listings there. All right, so one of the things that we covered here just a few moments ago was that the attributes, the product details that are contained in each individual SKU's product information management tab. So one of the great things that does for you is when you're going to list a particular product and say a particular channel is requesting specific information about that product that you've listed, many times most of that information is actually already going to be captured by Linworks, and it's already going to be available to post up to that particular sales channel. In this case, Linworks has recognized the brand, the clothing type, the color, the condition, the manufacturer, and a few other items here. And what we need to do is just recognize that, hey, there was a couple of attributes here that weren't captured. We could go in and make those edits, drop that information in, and then we're done with those required attributes for this particular channel, for this particular product. You can see that automation, if you will, or the ability for Linworks to know what those attributes are and push those out to the channel automatically, again, is saving us a ton of time in generating these particular listings. And then certainly last but not least, we've got the images. We can select which images we want to use for given products. We can suppress some, boost others to the main image, and really have some flexibility on how we're going to display those images as they're pushed out to those individual sales channels. I do want to talk about variations. None of these items that I'm listing right now have variations associated with them, but I think it is important to discuss. So if you do have an item that is really the same item, but it comes in different colors or it comes in different sizes, variations of the SKU. We do support that. It's fully supported within the Linworks environment. And we have the landing spots, if you will, for that information to be captured and then posted out to those individual sales channels as well. All right. So I'm going to back out of this Amazon templates piece. Really, if I wanted to go ahead and post these items and get these pushed out there, I could do so individually by hitting this create button here, and that would then broadcast or send that listing to that specific channel. Otherwise, I can use the process button up here, which would actually create and push these listings out all together. So if I didn't want to do these 6 listings, one by one individually, if I knew everything in here was good, I could hit process and we can push all of those SKUs out at the same time. If you're working with a really large number of individual SKUs, that process action is probably the one you want to implement there. All right, so let's back out of that template tab, and we're back into the forecasting, the listings, the default views in the My Inventory page here. So I want to jump back into forecasting very quickly here, just to kind of talk about, hey, how does that forecasting piece really marry up to me reordering my stock? And just as a quick example here, let me jump in and say, let's go ahead and restock a particular item. Let's make this a little more realistic. Let's say, let's look at our availability here. We've got some items in the green. We don't have to worry about restocking those items. We've got a few items that are looking a little bit low here. And in that case, we say, hey, let's go ahead and initiate a restock there. But you can see on some of these items here, particularly this one here, we can see that we've got a minimum order level. We're not quite there yet. We can see that our daily average consumption or daily average sales volume for this item is 2.79. When that reorder occurs on the 12th of May, we're going to order in 160 items there. And this is a calculation that's done by the Linworks system. So really, this helps you monitor your stock over time, particularly by sales channel or by warehouse location, and allows you to make sure that you are maintaining an appropriate stock level across all of your different sales channels and across all your different warehouses there. But let's go to that process. What does it look like to actually get a purchase order generated? So we'll go to this restock option for this particular item, come down into the Smart Calculate. We'll implement a purchase order for our default supplier there. And here we have the pre-purchase order screen. And this is going to allow us to define how much do we want to order. So we were expecting to get 160 on our next order. We can input that amount there and then go in and create a new purchase order for this particular item. I want to cover this process specifically because what we can do is I want to show what actually shows up on that purchase order, because there's a few sections that I think are critically important there that will help you ensure that your inventory valuation is correct. So this is what a purchase order looks like in Linworks. And this is, I'm sure there's a lot of familiar fields and information being requested here in this purchase order. But actually, more importantly, I want to come down to this other costs section. I do want to indicate that if you want to get proper valuation on your different SKUs or your inventory levels, you can use this other cost sections to assign shipping rates, tax rates, any conversion rates that might be implemented for your particular SKU levels. You have the ability to input that information and then assign or allocate those costs to the individual units, either by unit cost or by item volume as well. I don't know if you can see that drop down again there, but item volume is an allocation method option as well. And that really gives you the true valuation of your inventory, across all your warehouses or fulfillment centers, including any of those extra costs that you might encounter when purchasing or when creating a purchase order. Once you've got all that locked in, of course, you can send this out to your individual suppliers via email, or you can print it into a PDF and send it over to them as well. And you do have the ability to format these purchase orders according to your supplier's preferences. So if they are asking for a specific format for this purchase order, we can help you develop templates to make sure that you are providing them the specific format or in the information that they really need. Awesome. So we are cruising right along here, guys. So we've got quite a bit of information thrown out there. I'm looking forward to some of the questions that are going to be coming my way. So guys, don't forget to hit that Q&A chat box down there. Get your questions in if you do have any. There are a couple of other items that I want to cover with regards to inventory management. Now, these are some subsections in the inventory menu over here, particularly warehouse transfers, stock in, stock count, and scrap items. Now, I really don't have a ton of screens to show you on some of these items, particularly these stock in, stock count, and scrap item screens. I do want to spend just a few minutes talking about warehouse transfers, though. So Linworks does support the ability for you to move inventory from one warehouse or one fulfillment center to another, and that includes the Amazon or fulfilled by Amazon as well. So the warehouse transfers work by either requesting, an individual within your organization can request, or they can originate a warehouse transfer from the location that they're currently in. So if you are a warehouse manager at a location that is short on stock, you can of course send a request to a warehouse location that has plenty of that stock available. Or if you're a general inventory manager and you notice one location is getting low, I can shift my stock, balance that across my network of warehouses and fulfillment centers relatively easily. And that's all done through transfer cards. The transfer cards really are designed to allow you to track your inventory every step of the way through that warehouse transfer process. So if you could imagine for just a moment, if I needed to ship several units from one warehouse to another, I would generate an outbound warehouse transfer card. And that would allow me to input exactly the inventory that I am sending to the other warehouse. Once I secure that transfer and lock that in, that inventory that's being transferred from one house to another actually comes out of that originating warehouse, if you will. It's no longer available there, and so you don't risk overselling from that particular warehouse, because the system recognizes that, hey, we're moving that inventory from one to another. That is no longer available in that original warehouse. When it's in transit, you go through the pick pack process. You actually box up that inventory to ship it to your other warehouse. When it is in transit, it is actually shown in Linworks as in transit, and it is not available to be sold out of either warehouse while it's in transit. And that's, again, really critical to making sure that you don't oversell while that inventory is being moved from one location to the next. And then, of course, when it arrives at the receiving warehouse, they certainly do have the opportunity to take that inventory, book that in, and then it actually does become available at that receiving warehouse. So really the takeaway from the warehouse transfer functionality is that, going through that whole process, Linworks lets you know exactly where that inventory is, every step of the way there, going through that whole process. And that's really the key, the takeaway to that warehouse functionality. Now, we do have the ability to send stock to your FBA fulfillment center in a very similar way. We actually use that warehouse transfer functionality for that. And we also have tools that are available to assist you with the shipping plans, the acceptance of Amazon of those shipping plans, and the communication back and forth between Amazon. And we will cover that again in another webinar. We'll go a little bit deeper on that particular functionality, but I just want to clue you guys in that is available for you there within the Linworks inventory management system as well. Let's talk quickly about stock in. If you do have, you quickly want to get additional stock loaded into your inventory, maybe it's stock that's arrived on a PO that wasn't necessarily processed by Linworks, that's perfectly fine. We know that happens. But if you want to get additional stock added to your inventory, no matter where that inventory is located, you can use that stock in functionality to go ahead and get those products or that inventory loaded into your system. This stock count option, again, I hope you guys can see this drop-down menu as I'm displaying this here. The stock count option allows you to literally take stock of your inventory and then reconcile any differences that you have between your actual inventory and the theoretical inventory that your system thinks that you have there. Of course, items are sometimes damaged or lost or stolen, or they just simply disappear, and you have to account for that, right? And the stock count functionality within Linworks allows you to do that accurately and keep a good solid record of that as you go through that process. And then, of course, those items that are damaged or lost or stolen need to be removed from inventory when that does occur. And the scrap items functionality allows you to cleanly remove that inventory from your inventory system and has a record or an accounting of that as well. So really important that those types of actions are recorded, that data is saved, and it is reportable at a later date as well when you go to reconcile the inventory value, really just manage your system overall. Excellent. Well, that is a lot of information that we went through relatively quickly. I'm looking up at the clock and I realize I've been talking for 40 minutes straight. So let me stop sharing my screen here. We'll pop back out. And cool. So let me jump into just a quick summary here. If you didn't get anything out of this webinar, please take this from the inventory management component. Linworks inventory management offers the unique ability to control your inventory across multiple locations while maintaining the entirety of your product information and create and manage listings across all of your selling channels. That's really the thesis of Linworks. Since I've only been with Linworks for the past 3 months, sometimes my friends and family ask me, "Hey, what do you do?" And that's literally what I tell them is we are a complete e-commerce platform, really kind of covering all of the functionality, all of the bases there. But just a summary of Linworks as a whole, there is a huge opportunity to grow your business online. Growing your business is really one of our tenets as well. Inefficiencies and manual processes can make that difference. So let us help you automate your commerce operations with programmatic rules. Connect your commerce technologies to control your operations and centralize all of your data with one integrated backend solution. So that is Linworks as a whole there. I am going to go ahead and bounce on out of that. And I'm going to start checking out the question and answer box here. So give me just a second to pull this up. Let me shoot this over here. All right, cool. We've got actually a bunch of questions in the chat here. That's awesome, guys. Thank you so much for dropping these questions in. I'm just going to start at the top. I'm going to try to get as many of these questions answered as I possibly can. First question, is this webinar being recorded? Will it be available for later viewing? Absolutely. And that's going to be true for all of our webinars that we do. We call it a webinar on demand. So this is a live version. I'm actually doing this right now at this moment, but you will be able to view this webinar after the fact, as well as the slides that accompany it as well. All right, next question is, what is the best way to have the system to select the right shipping services in the case that there are multiple shippers integrated inside Linworks? Some orders might land in Linworks within the next day delivery. Some might need to get shipper abroad, etc. All this information drives what shipper's service to select. Yeah, so that's a great question. Which shipper do I select? There is functionality within Linworks, within the inventory system to, of course, you have the option to input several different shipping providers, shipping carriers integrated into Linworks. And then you want to know, hey, which one should I use? Which one should I use for this particular shipment? Well, there's a couple different ways you can decide that. We do have the ability to quickly go in and request quotes from all your different shipping suppliers or shipping providers that you have. So if you've got a shipment going out, you want to know, hey, what's the best price I can get to ship this particular order out? You do have the ability to go in and quickly get quotes based on your contracts, based on your account that you have with those different providers. But more than that, a lot of times we actually would take that decision-making process and actually allow the Linworks software to automate that decision-making process. Remember that we talked a little about the product dimensions, the weight, the physical dimensions of a product, and that could actually lead to dictating how that particular product is shipped. And that is something that you can set up as an automated function within Linworks. The previous webinar that Matt Heitzer gave, he goes into that automation component a little bit, and I imagine that in the future we'll talk a little bit more in depth about those automations. But really, what it does is it allows you to, without having to be a computer science major or a programming expert, we use a graphical user interface to allow you to set up if-then statements in a variety of different ways that allow you to take the physical dimensions of a given order that's come in, And with those physical dimensions, decide, hey, what's going to be the best shipping allocation, or the best shipping methodology based on that information there. And it goes through a decision-making process, or a programmatic rules engine that allows the system to determine, hey, this is the best methodology. It's going to give you the best value as far as shipping this particular order. So in short, you can allow the Linworks system to make that decision for you, or to help you or assist you in making that decision, which really allows you to quickly select the best shipping provider, the best shipping methodology to get that order out. All right. We've got a couple of folks out there that are asking, hey, I can't see that stock forecasting tab. Never seen it. How do I get this? A couple of questions around that out there. So what I would say is, I'm not exactly sure why you can't see it. It could be a variety of different things. It could be a permissions level settings. It could be a component that you simply just aren't using at this point. For those individuals, I will reach out to you individually and let you know what it will take to get you into that stock forecasting view. There are several folks asking that same question, so will reach out to y'all individually for your specific use case and make sure you have access to that. All right, let me look through a couple of the next questions and see if we can get these answered. Let's see, there's more questions on stock forecasting. Okay. All right, if every month, this is a great question here, if every month we need to repeat placing the same order, is there any way to copy the PO to generate a new purchase order? That's a great question. I'm gonna find out if we can automate some of that purchase order processing, or if that's just limited to the ordering or order processing component of Linworks. So Selena Knight, let me research that, and I will reach back out to you with a solid answer on that. And make sure we get you some accurate information on using the automations to set up repeatable processes, because that's definitely something we want to help you with. All right, we've got questions here about pricing structure, subscription costs, different questions around, how much does this system cost? Can we see pricing structure, things like that. This webinar, I'm not going to focus on pricing, because really that is dependent on a large number of variables. And so I don't know if we're going to present a pricing webinar or something of that nature, but I would absolutely reach out to one of our sales representatives here at Linworks, and they would absolutely be happy to discuss the pricing structures, what your individual pricing might look like based on what it is that you're exactly going to be doing with the Linworks system. And so I don't want to get too much into that. That's not really my realm, but I know we've got our sales professionals would be absolutely ecstatic to talk to you about that specifically. So definitely reach out to them, and we will actually reach out to you specifically for asking that question. So look out for communication coming your way around that. All right, lots of questions coming in. They are continuing to pour in, so really appreciate that. Got some mentions that they couldn't see that pop-out screen of those drop downs. So my apologies about that, guys. Kind of a limitation on the webinar capability there. But hopefully me talking through that gave you a good, accurate representation of what was being displayed there. All right. Going to continue to look through some of these questions here and answer the ones that I can. Again, guys, if your specific question is not answered here, be on the lookout, because we are going to reach out to you individually to get those questions answered. All right. Next question here. Questions on integrating with carriers that are not in our list. Great question. So one of the things that I really like about Linworks as a software organization is the flexibility that's available within the system. And that includes flexibility within integrations as well. So if you have a supplier or a carrier or even a sales channel, a marketplace that you want to connect to that we have not already set up an established connection with, worry not, because we do have the ability to integrate through a wide range of different methodologies, including API, integrating on EDI through partners. We do support FTP integrations as well. So we'll let you guys know that we have a lot of flexibility and ways of getting you connected to those partners that may not be on our list as of right now. So worry not, we're absolutely willing to work with you on getting those set up. What methods of sending POs are available in Linworks to suppliers? Email is primary. We do allow you to print off those PDFs, if you will, and send those however you wish as well. Again, let me explore some of the details around that in particular, and we'll get the specifics of different methodologies of getting your purchase orders to your suppliers that are available as well. All right. How are listings uploaded on Amazon if the item is not currently on their catalog, or if the item EAN is currently used for an incorrect item on Amazon? So that's a relatively specific question. But if you are asking how would we upload listings to Amazon if the item is not currently in their catalog, we absolutely allow for creating of new items, new listings. Let me research the specifics of that question a little bit, and I'll get back to you as well on that one. Actually, we got a couple of questions around that specifically, so cool. I'm going to reach out to y'all individually about the specific new item listings on Amazon. There seems to be quite a few questions around that as well. Is there a limit to the amount of orders I can process in a month? Nope, there's no limit, but that actually does have to do with our pricing structure. So again, we'll reach out to you individually and talk a little bit about how order volume might influence pricing there. Okay. All right, so we've got a question here about low stock warnings. So we did talk a little bit about managing low stock levels in Linworks and setting up those channel specific SKUs and how that's managed. So I want to reiterate, if you or I should say you have the ability to input basically a percentage that you want to display of your stock that's available to a specific channel. For example, if I've got 100 units, I'm going to use easy numbers here for this example. If you've got 100 units available, but you really want to be careful about not overselling a particular item, there are specific channels out there that get pretty finicky about overselling. So if you encounter that and you say, hey, I really want to be careful about overselling this particular item, I've got 100 units available, I'm actually only going to display 75 of those units. I'm going to put in a percentage and tell Linworks, only ever show 75% of my actual available stock. If we cross that threshold and I've sold 75% of that particular stock, go ahead and remove that listings automatically from that particular sales channel, or just turn it off, right? And that will prevent us from ever overselling, because we've always got that 25% stock in reserve. That's a large reserve, right? 25% is a pretty high number. Thinking about that a little bit more logically, hey, I might set that to maybe 15 or 10%, right? So I've always got that there. But that's how you prevent that overselling situation, is you have the ability to set that display, what's being pushed out to the channel, what's being shown versus what's actually available in that stock. And you can set those thresholds in a custom fashion to make sure that you don't ever encounter that. That running out of stock scenario there. All right, cool. We've got a couple of other questions coming through that are relatively specific. And so I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and wrap up this session for today. And then I'm going to spend some time going out and answering these individual, relatively specific questions for you all. So if I didn't get to your questions, guys, I'm sorry, but I will absolutely spend some time getting back out to you and answering those specific questions. But this has been an absolute blast. Thank you so much for joining me and going through this session with me. This is my first webinar that I've done for Linworks. I'm looking forward to doing many more. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully it was informative, perhaps maybe even just a touch entertaining, if I'm lucky. But again, thank you all so much for joining. I look forward to answering these questions, and come see us again. Come see us on the next webinar. It's going to be a good one. All right, everybody, take care, and thanks again.